It was just before World War II. We were the only family in our New York town that didn't own a car. I was a typical teenager, and to me, no car, when most others had one, was disgraceful. Our daily shopping trips were made in a small two-wheeled basket cart drawn by an ancient pony that my mother had named Barkis after the character in David Copperfield. Boney Barkis was a comic eyesore. Every clop of his hooves showed our poverty. We were poor. My father's salary as clerk would have been enough had he not given half of it to support his ill and poor relatives. Even our house was mortgaged. Mother consoled the family by saying, "If you have character, you have the better part of wealth." My bitter reply was, "You can't buy a car with it." Yet she succeeded in making poverty tolerable in all other respects. Our home had charm. Mother knew the secret of using a few yards of the right chintz and a little paint in the right places. But the garage still stabled Barkis and not a car. Suddenly, there arrived a moment which was to convert my shame into a blaze of glory. For weeks, a new Buick Roadmaster had stood in the window of the biggest store on Main Street. Now, on the final celebration night of the country fair, it was to be ruffled off. After watching the fireworks, I stayed in the shadows at the edge of the throng till the end, when the winning number was to be drawn out. Decorated in bunting on a special platform, the Buick glittered under a dozen spotlights. The crowd held its breath as the mayor reached into the glass bowl for the lucky ticket. Never in my most lavish desires had I thought that Lady Luck would smile upon the only family in town without a car. But the loudspeaker boomed my father's name. By the time I wormed my way up to the platform, the mayor had presented Dad with the keys, and he had driven off amid cheers. I reached home in record time, imagining myself at the wheel of the Buick, driving my friends. The house was dark, but for lights in the living room. The Buick stood in the driveway, glistening in the glow from the front window. From the garage, I heard a snuffle from Barkis. Panting from my run, I touched the car's smooth surface, opened the door, and got inside. The luxurious interior had that wonderful new car smell. I studied the gleaming dashboard. Turning my head to admire the back seat, I saw my father's sturdy figure through the rear window. He was pacing the sidewalk. I slammed the door and rushed over to him. "Leave me alone," he snarled. I was taken aback. I could not have been more hurt. Shocked, I went into the house. Mother met me in the living room. "Don't be upset," she said. "Your father is struggling with an ethical problem. We'll have to wait until he finds the right answer." "What's unethical about winning a Buick?" "The car may not be ours after all. There's a question." I shouted wildly. "How can there be a question?" It was announced downtown over the loudspeaker. "Come here, son." On the table under the lamp were two raffle tickets, number 348 and 349. The winning number was 348. "Do you see the difference between the two?" Mother asked. I looked carefully. "The only difference I can see is that 348 one." "Hold 348 to the light and look hard." It required a lot of looking to see the faint letter K dimly marked in pencil on one corner. Do you see the K? Just barely. It stands for Kendrick. Jim Kendrick, Dad's boss? Yes, she explained. My father had asked Jim if he wanted to buy a ticket. Jim had mumbled, "Why not?" and turned back to what he was doing. It may never have crossed his mind again. Dad then bought 2 tickets in his own name with his own money, marking 348 for Kendrick that was hardly visible and could be wiped out by the lightest rub of a thumb. To me, it was an open and shut case. Jim Kendrick was a multi-millionaire. He owned a dozen cars. He lived on an estate with a staff of servants, including 2 chauffeurs. Another car meant less to him than a bridle on Bacchus meant to us. I argued, "Dad's got to keep it. I know he'll do what's right." Mother said calmly. At last we heard Dad's step on the front porch. I held my breath. He went straight to the phone in the dining room and dialed. Kendrick's phone rang for a long time. A servant finally answered. From what Dad said at our end, I could tell that Kendrick had to be awakened. He was annoyed at being roused from sleep. My father had to explain the whole thing from the beginning. The next afternoon, Kendrick's 2 chauffeurs arrived in a station wagon. Before driving the Buick away, they presented Dad with a box of cigars. We didn't get a car until after I was grown. But as time went on, my mother's aphorism, "If you have character, you have the better part of wealth," took on a new meaning. Looking back over the years, I know now we were never richer than we were at the moment when Dad made that telephone call.